All right, guys. After a little break last week, we're back, and we're back at it.
Howdy, partners.
Howdy. Been a minute. How's everybody doing? Your boy had to take a little bit of a break because I started in the Air Force, man, and it was a hectic week, and I needed to get adjusted, and was tired as all hell all week. But we're here, and we're ready to do it. The podcast from 2 weeks ago when I was in Texas is uploaded. It's now on YouTube, so make sure to go check that out. Like it, share it, and push that out to your friends. Welcome Combo, welcome Caden, and welcome Squash. First three in there. W, let's go.
Friends.
Yeah, man. We're here. We're ready to get after it again. Little breaks here and there are good. Good for the mental health. Good for everybody. Get that rest in. All that good stuff. But
it honestly makes me so much more excited after we've had a week off. I'm like, man, I miss my little outlet.
I know.
I miss my little friends.
And if I'm going to be completely honest, last week was, or the week before, whatever it was a little slow on newsworthy things. So
it kind of was for sure.
But we have some shit to talk about today. And that shit is, well, you can obviously tell by the title. I titled this podcast Gen Z, the softest generation, and have we become too PC? So that's what
Gen Z, the softest.
100%, dude. Generation? Gen Z has been the the catalyst for the majority of this uber PC, uber make everyone happy, let's not be offended bullshit that's happening right now. And with that, we'll start with and this I'll caveat this. This did not come directly because of Gen Z. But in order to, I guess, reach a better audience or continue to make money off of this, the people of the late Dr. Seuss's estate have decided that they are going to stop publishing 3 of his lesser known works, and that is because in those, apparently, I mean, I haven't seen them, there are what some would consider 6 of his books. Actually, I stand corrected. 6 of his books.
Yeah, there's 6 of them. I taught preschool for a long time, and I've read all of these books frequently. Actually, If I Ran the Zoo is a really good one.
Right. So here we go. Let me pull up these books real fast because I don't remember what all they were. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, cool. So anyway, in these books, which I did read some Dr. Seuss growing up, but I did not read, a lot of it. Obviously, I hit the highlights, the most popular ones. But the 6 books being canceled, or not being canceled, but, well, I guess canceled production, are going to be, and to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street, If I Ran a Zoo, McElligot's Pool, On Beyond Zebra, Scrambled Egg Super, The Cat's Quizzer. So those 6 books will not be published anymore because apparently they portray people in hurtful and wrong ways. So there's some depictions in, I don't know which ones of those, where Dr. Seuss portrays somebody from Asia, as, all slanty-eyed with a little pointy hat and that kind of stuff. Apparently, I think there's also a portrayal of somebody from the continent of Africa in like a grass skirt. Things like that. That is, why those books essentially are not being published anymore. My question is why? I understand that it could, people will look at this in such a way as like, oh, that's racist, and Dr. Seuss portrayed these people in a racist way. But I feel like you can look at that through the lens of the time that these books were written. And you could do it the same way that perhaps, and I don't really advocate Disney on a lot of things, but you could do it the same way that Disney did a lot of the TV shows and old movies that they have put on Disney Plus, where there's a disclaimer in the front of it that says, hey, this is from a different time period. Things were different back then. This is not how we, see things nowadays, but we're not going to, not put these out because they're classic movies. and that kind of stuff. So I feel like maybe the books themselves don't have to stop being published. Just put a disclaimer in the front of them or something like that, and go, hey, this was from a period of time where people were less sensitive on race and racism, but there's still a good message in these books. Like Alex said, he said if I ran a zoo, and that was, he's read that one, and that one's that's a good he enjoyed that book for his preschool kids. So I feel like there's still good meanings and good messages in those books, and you could just add that disclaimer in the front. And let me be clear here. I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that fuck it, just let's run it, and who cares how people's feelings are hurt on a race standpoint. That's not what I'm saying on that. I get that now we're in a time when we do need to be a little bit more I guess sensitive or aware of how we portray people, and obviously nobody wants racism to be around or anything like that. But there's a way to do it where you don't have to stop publishing these books and keep this message that Dr. Seuss was trying to put out in these books by just stopping production. You can leave a disclaimer in the front of it. That's my thoughts so far on that.
Well, I think there's an important distinction to be made here also, because it was actually Dr. Seuss's estate that decided to voluntarily stop producing. And what are you going to do when you stop producing a book? Because of racist imagery, you're going to drive sales towards those books.
They did.
So this very well could be a strategic play by his estate to help boost Dr. Seuss sales.
And on that, so I'm going to jump in real fast. Some of these books are going for like $500 on eBay now.
Yeah, I've got them actually in Reagan's room. Reagan has all the Dr. Seuss books, because that was the first thing I was going to do. Not so much that I wanted to like promote racist imagery or something, but I did want to have the books because I'm a big Dr. Seuss fan. And there's another distinction here to make, that during World War II, Seuss was known for publishing like some anti-Japanese publications, and that's actually why he wrote Horton Hears a Who, because he had kind of like had a changed heart. And if you're familiar with the book or the movie Horton Hears a Who, it's about, it doesn't matter how big or small you are, everybody has the same value in life. Which I think is another, again, important distinction to make, that Seuss wasn't a saint when it came to racist, imagery
Right.
and sort of a thing. Now to say, and to be honest with you, I don't. The one that got to me the most was the "If I Ran a Zoo," or "If I Ran the Zoo," because one of the distinctions that's being made is that there's two gorillas boxing, and that's like depicting two black, men boxing, which by volume, a large number of boxers happen to be African American, which, again, I don't think that's like a racist depiction. Maybe there is some hidden meaning
Well,
there.
there's been a thing that's gone around for a long time with plenty of racist people, is that they have made that comparison of African American people to gorillas. So that's where that's coming from.
Yeah, and again, I see if there was racial undertones, and I don't know that the only way to know would be to somehow have a chat with old Theodore Seuss. Um, Again, if that was the intention, then yeah, I think it's probably a good idea that we're not exposing kids to racist ideology. I don't think that's a good idea at all. In fact, I would promote quite the opposite. But to stop publication and say, it gets into the same thought process of, who are you to tell me what I can and can't purchase? Maybe I'm going to use that book for my preschoolers and say, hey, look, this is how they did things back then. And they compared, our black friends to gorillas. And obviously that's not cool. That's not cool at all. To just, I hate the term when you're talking about, I'm going to use the term whitewash, or just like try to get rid of it. No pun intended with,
Right.
racial comparison. But when you just try to wash it away, you create like a very dangerous precedence of, we start with Dr. Seuss and then we work towards, what was it? Huckleberry Finn, or I forget
Yeah,
the.
Huckleberry Finn. There was
Yeah, and then
people up
we
in
worked
arms about
towards all
that.
these publications, and now that we've started on books, you enter a very dangerous area to where when you're starting to quote unquote cancel or stop publication of books because we don't like the way that it was written or who wrote it, eh, you enter into a really dangerous area of, okay, well, where do you stop now? Do you go all the way to the Bible, or do you go all the way towards, real hard facts on, like, let's just talk about gender for a second. Like, do we start to change science, you know, and call gender something that's assigned to you at birth versus something that you're born genetically with? Like, I hope I'm making sense in the fact that sorry, Squash says I'm a
I
toaster
got
now.
it. I fixed it.
Okay. I hope I'm making sense in the way that you start down a very dangerous road.
No, I get what you're saying there, and chat, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, as well as Alex. I think the book that I'm thinking of was like Fahrenheit 451, right? That was the book where they just like it was a book talking about a society where they started burning books for whatever reason. I personally haven't read that book, but I kind of remembered a little bit of the gist of it. But then we get into territory perhaps that we could venture into that realm. But what I wish people would realize with publications, whether it be books or anything else from a different time period, is that was a different time period, and things were different back then. So instead of stopping publication or the readings of or anything else about these texts that were from a different time period, transition and use those as a teaching tool and say, hey, like Alex said, look, this is what this book is talking about. And yes, there are some portrayals and some words and some phrasing in here that is not okay anymore. But what we can do with that and go, this is the time period. But look at how we have progressed from this time period
Well,
into an area now where we're more accepting of people for whatever whether race, sexual orientation, gender, anything like that. So
well,
instead of getting rid of them, use them as a teaching tool.
let's look at the movie Django Unchained, right? Nobody feels comfortable. I felt awkward.
But there was
The
multiple
amount of
times in that movie I was like, oof.
the not only the use of the word, the N word, um, but just the overall uncomfortability of, like, damn, these slaves went through the ringer, man. Like,
Right,
we literally treated them like less than dirt. Are we gonna cancel that movie because it makes us feel uncomfortable? No. That
right,
as a white person, I feel like it's important for me to see a movie like that and help understand where the level of which their black ancestors were treated, and it helps me understand it a little bit
right.
more.
It
It
helps
helps.
me get into their, it helps us get into their mind frame of why they are, I trying to their thought process about
The level of
everything
frustration,
and
yeah, that.
frustration and everything that they're going and going through and have suffered at the hands of the white man essentially. So yeah, like use it as a teaching tool. And Metters is right. Publishers pulling their own books is one thing, but when the mob starts canceling things, it gets very Orwellian very quickly, right? And we've referenced these before, at least 1984. I've referenced that a lot recently.
it would
And an
it wouldn't
animal,
be a podcast if we didn't talk about Orwell,
right? And Animal Farm, and
because
things
it's
of that
true.
nature. And it's true, and almost daily now it becomes we inch ever closer, and
Yeah.
it's concerning. It's very concerning.
It
Yeah.
it
So
immediately made me think of the movie The Book of Eli, where he's carrying around the last Bible,
right. Oh, I haven't
because
seen that
in the
movie in forever, but that's
post-apocalyptic
such a good
world,
movie.
yeah, in the post-apocalyptic world, all the Bibles got burned.
Hmm.
Again, you can look at Orwell or a movie like that, or there's certainly Maze Runner, there's a lot of kind of futuristic, novels or films, or Maze Runner was a book also, that kind of eerily predict, not to the full extent, but kind of the situation that we're living in right
The
now,
correlations
where we
are
have to tread extremely light on this thin ice, because if we allow it or condone it to continue with no sort of pushback whatsoever, you can enter into some really dangerous, choppy waters where we start rewriting history the way that we want history to look. And
right,
that's extremely dangerous,
right, and I don't like
not
that.
only for my culture, but for every culture.
Exactly, and
Uh,
I know there's been something talking about history. There's been some stuff going around recently. That people, the whites, or that history has been written by the white man, and for the most part, I would agree with that. Because I remember going through history classes in high school, and I'm like, why don't we learn more about this? But we kind of breeze over certain things, like certain evils or wrongdoings by white people throughout history. We're kind of like, oh yeah, we did that, and it wasn't great, and then you move on, and you immediately start talking about all the great things that happen, and it's like, well, like pump the brakes. Let's not let's not just gloss over the fact that we fucked up. Let's take a minute.
yeah,
Let's look at how we fucked up, and let's learn from it so we don't repeat it, and
yeah.
and do that.
Well, and
So
like
so
Disney, sorry, not to
no,
cut you
no,
off.
you're good. Go
Disney
ahead.
has pulled Aristocrats, Dumbo, live action, Swiss Family Robinson, Lady
Peter
and the Tramp,
Pan.
Peter Pan from the kids' profiles. Now, it's not from the services. If you go to your regular adult account and choose on one of those movies, you're greeted with the message, this program includes negative depictions and/or mistreatment of people or cultures. These stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now. Rather than remove this content, we want to acknowledge its harmful impact, learn from it, and spark conversation to create a more inclusive future together.
Exactly, and that's like the
Disney is
only.
committed to creating
Oh, sorry.
stories with the inspiration and aspirational themes, or yeah, blah blah blah.
Right, and that's like
See,
one of the good
I
things
don't
that
I don't
Disney
hate
has
that
done.
move.
Yeah, no, and that's like, and for the most part, Disney, like, it's Disney's kind of a shit company, just based on the fact that they strong arm a lot of people into doing their bidding, basically, and
Yeah.
being how they are. We kind of talked about that 2 weeks ago, but at least that was a good move on their part, saying, like, look, it was wrong then and it's wrong now, but proceed at your own risk, basically, and that's
Poison
fine.
Poison says those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it, and that's very well spoken. I can't
True.
remember
Yeah, I don't
whose
remember who
that
said
comes
that.
from quote wise, but that's exactly right. When you start to erase your history, history always repeats itself, and if you can't learn from it and try to avoid it in the future, there's nothing to draw from.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
history is a circle. It's not linear. It could be linear, but like that says, things are gonna come back around, and if we didn't learn the last time, it's gonna go the same way again.
Yeah.
Which is why those disclaimers like that are good to be like, look, this wasn't right. We've changed. Let's have a discussion about it. Like if you're with your kids or whatever, or wherever you're watching this, and people are uncomfortable, like, okay, yeah, we're uncomfortable about this, but let's talk. Let's take a minute, pause the movie, or after the movie's done, whatever, or after we're done reading whatever Dr. Seuss book, take a minute and be like, look, and have it, I've said, I'm beating this dead horse, but have a teaching moment in that, and,
Yeah.
and use it that way instead of just sweeping it under the rug and pretending like it didn't happen. Because then, like Poison said, it's gonna come back around again. And
Yeah.
if we continue to sweep it under the rug, there's only so much you can sweep under a rug before there's a lump, and then you got to address the lump. And so now it's a bigger lump, and there's a lot more to deal with instead of just taking it as things come up and dealing with it in the moment.
Yeah. Educate yourself.
Really,
Don't just erase it from the past. You know, you can't do it.
you can't.
Anyway,
The other thing that is that came up at the same time with the Doctor Seuss stuff is now the potato head. So Hasbro itself had came out and said that they had to actually go out and clarify because they're rebranding, and this for them is a business move, so they can continue to make money. This is what I found out after I did some looking on it. So they're rebranding the Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head line of toys as just Potato Head to include overall Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, and then whatever family you want to build with them. They're not removing the Mister from Mr. Potato Head. They're not removing Mrs. from Mrs. Potato Head. All right, because that's what people thought when they announced this. People are like, "Oh my God, have we become so soft that we now have to have a gender neutral potato so you can play with it?" So people, and it's not that's not what they're getting at. It's because what my first thought on all this is like, why the fuck do we have to do this? Like, you can make that potato whatever you want. It comes with all sorts of accessories. You can make Mr. or Mrs. Potato Head whatever you want. There's no reason to take that out. So I did some more looking. They're just rebranding it as Potato Head. So it's the Potato Head line of toys. And taking off the moniker or the prefix Mr. or Mrs. makes it feel more inclusive to new buyers now, so that as Gen Z and whoever else start getting older and ready to have kids, now it's a little bit more inclusive. It's basically just a marketing ploy so that they can continue to make money off of this toy line. Cool,
Squash
fine, whatever.
Squash asked, the question is, who still plays with Potato Head toys? And that is a
Valid
probably
question.
brilliant question that came up in a marketing meeting at Hasbro. What can we do to spark, ignite, to get Potato Head, Mr. and Mrs. whatever back in the spotlight? It's probably just a brilliant marketing ploy. It's not like there were outcries, although I'm sure if you search Twitter, somebody's out there fucking, wanting a gender neutral potato head. But it's not like they were responding from outcries and like
Exactly.
caved to the public's, you know, judge and jury and was like, okay, we'll get rid of the Mr. and Mrs. Like, they're still going to be man and wife, and they're still going to be little baby potato heads. It's just a ploy, I guess you could call it, from Hasbro in my eyes. To go out and say, okay, what can we do to spark sales?
And that's pretty much like what I read when I looked on it. So my my thing with that is like, okay, whatever marketing ploy, cool. But why now does literally everything with some fucking gender attached to it have to now be changed to be all inclusive? Like, why have we become like a society like on that front where it's like, if you're not all inclusive, we're gonna cancel you, we're gonna like harass you, like whatever. It's like, who, for me anyway, like I'm like, who the fuck cares? Like at this point, like if you're offended, fine, be offended, but don't push your offense onto the rest of the world and people who could give a fuck less about this or whatever. And I don't like, just stop doing that. You yourself be offended. Fine. I don't care. If you're offended, you're offended, but be offended elsewhere. And if you want to post your opinion of how offended you are about it, fine, do that. But in doing that, don't be like, I'm offended. Now everyone else needs to be offended with me, because no, we don't. If I'm not offended by what you're offended by, sorry. Like, I don't have to be offended by what you're offended by.
There's a big difference, and we've talked about this before also, being in finding, identifying something as offensive and actually being offended.
Right.
Like, comedians talk about it all the time, right? Like, their job is, a lot of them, are to get up there and say offensive shit, and people in the crowd aren't offended because they know it's a joke and they're
Right.
there to hear jokes. You could say a lot of offensive shit to me that I would not be offended by, like it you when you start to bubble wrap culture and you start to put people into like these quote unquote safe spaces, to like where we don't say anything that upsets
Yeah,
anyone,
nobody be
like
upset. Everybody just be happy.
that's not attainable.
It's no.
Somebody is going to find something offensive that you're not offended by. And it's one thing, again, to say, okay, I could see why you're offended by that. Let's try to work to find a solution. But the solution isn't just take it away and now nobody can be offended by it. There are
Right.
millions of billions of people on the planet. You're not going to be able to create this dystopian culture for everyone
You
to just
can't make everybody happy.
you'll never do it.
It's impossible. Somebody's always going to be upset by something, and that's fine. But like I said, don't take you being upset and push that on everybody else just because you've got your knickers in a twist. Go
Yeah.
untwist them and come back and rejoin society. Like deal with it however you got to deal with it. Let the rest of us move on with our lives.
Well, this is a really good segue into the Coach McDermott, the Greg McDermott thing. Have you seen anything about that?
I don't think so. Let me look.
Well, this will be good for me to explain to you in real time. And one of the reasons I know about this is he's Creighton basketball's head coach here in Omaha. Obviously, Creighton always has a pretty prolific basketball team.
Right.
So, not going into the whole thing, but he used the term plantation twice
Oh,
as
I
part
think
of
I
his
saw
comments,
something about that.
urging team unity. The exact quote was, "I need everybody to stay on the plantation."
No,
I think
that's what it was. It was the reservation. He's like, let's
no,
not
it was
like, was
plantation.
it? Because somebody else said
It
something
was
about the reservation or something
If it
like
was
that.
reservation, that would have, in theory, offended Indian people because you
Well,
can't say the
Native
term.
Americans, yeah. You can't
Yeah,
say
Native
you can't say
Americans.
Indian
Sorry,
anymore.
I don't know. I'm not trying to be insensitive. I'm really not. I
Right.
love everybody. I don't give a shit. If you're a piece of shit, I don't care what color you are. If you're a good person, I don't care what color you are.
Right.
Anyway, but apparently you can't use the term off the reservation anymore when you're talking about someone who's like crazy or losing their mind because that goes back to Indian ties or
Yeah,
something to
that
that
the
effect.
plant yeah, the reservation goes back to Native American ties and how, we pushed them onto, reservations because we
Correct.
wanted their land, and plantation
Which
refers back, references back to slavery.
exactly. But again, you when you look at the history of this person, right? If you were a racist coach in the sport of college basketball, that I don't know the exact statistics. I would say is probably predominantly African American. If we could go back and look at instances of him making racially charged comments, he'd have been gone a long time ago.
Right.
But being from Omaha, knowing people that have traveled with him, played on the Creighton basketball team, all you ever hear about Greg McDermott is what a good guy he is. His son played on the team for a long time. They were very good. His son roomed with the guard on the team, who happened to be an African American. So, do I think that his comments could have been said in a better way? 1,000%. He could have made a better choice of words. Do I really think he was referring to a plantation to where you're all my slaves and I need you guys to stay on the plantation? Because if you look up the definition of the word plantation, it can be a farm, it can be a ranch. I don't think he was in a room full of African American players that he's recruited. They've dedicated their careers, their college careers to this man. They've invested a lot into him and his program and his ideology. I mean, to just come out and say that he should lose his job over a really poor choice of words, I don't think that's fair. I
No,
don't.
and I don't agree with that either. And like you said, plantation like referred to just a farm or area of like farmland that was, they were growing whatever, cotton, sugarcane, bananas, whatever it was. Like it's that itself is not the like a bad or negative like word, but it was the situation around it with slavery that turned it into something that now has a negative connotation to it. And with him, yes, he could have chosen a better phrase, but it was just a turn. It was a turn of phrase.
And
And I
and
don't like I'm with you on that. You don't need to get canceled just because you let slip a turn of phrase. That and yes, it is old and like outdated or whatever, but like can we just stop trying to ruin people's careers on one instance? And we said this like the last time we were here. Like people make mistakes, but we
yeah.
learn from them. So instead of trying to just cancel everybody every time they make a mistake and be like, "Sorry, one and done," inform them of the mistake they made, or let them inform themselves or whatever. Let them learn from it instead. Like this is the whole theme I think is going on right now with, like, at least with me, is just like let people learn from the mistakes they made, let them make the changes they need to make, and then let's move on. We don't have to ruin people's lives over things like this.
Well, and one of his, a couple players have finally spoken out. They were playing this really close to the chest for good reason. I mean, obviously, um, but a couple of them, made comments that his comments hurt and that it didn't feel good, which I understand. I understand. I'm not saying
We're not
that.
trying to downplay their
Yeah,
feelings.
I'm not saying that they should grow up and then just accept the word plantation. Like that's not what I'm saying at all. It was a poor choice of words, 1,000%. I don't think anybody could argue against that. Whether that's what he meant, referring to a slave plantation, or he was referring to a farm, poor choice of words, dude. Not a good look for sure. But one of his players said a lot of guys in that locker room were hurting from it, and I was hurting from it. At the same time, Coach Mack has been a huge mentor for me, and I know he would take a bullet for me and everybody in that room, including the coaching staff. That says enough to me right there to, yes, the guy made a really poor choice of words, but to completely remove him from college basketball, from the program, the university that he's dedicated a large majority of his life to, for one comment. You think about what a college coach says to their team: thousands, millions of words over 20 years, practice, pregame, halftime, postgame. This guy has been nothing but positive and nothing but, I would I would take a bullet for this team. I'd give my life for you guys. And yeah, he made some really poor choices of words, but you can't step up. Like I heard Jay Billis talking today, and I don't have a problem with Jay Billis. Personally, I actually kind of like him, but he was saying there should be no excuse. He should be fired. He should be removed from the team. I'm like, dude, that no, like that's not fair to that guy. I don't, and I wouldn't care if it was a black guy making racially insensitive comments about a white person, or uh, white and Hispanic, or I mean, very switch them all around, all of the races A, B, and plug them all in differently. I would be saying it's not because I'm a white
Yeah,
male
we'd be saying the same
speaking
thing no
up or
matter the
like
situation.
trying to justify another white male's conversation or comments. It's just not fair to a guy who spent countless hours and emotion into this program to, over a really stupid, poor choice of words, to just say you're done and
Right.
see you later.
And well, what it boils down to again is that kind of stuff. Is the people that like made the outcry about it, or the people that are watching those games, and the people that spend money at the ticket counter to go to those games and that kind of stuff. So the college looked at that and said, "Oh my God, our fan base is pissed, and if we don't do something about this, we're gonna lose a lot of money." And it's sad that a lot of things nowadays boils down to how much money we are going to lose or make depending on what choice we make here.
You know, Art Briles spent a lot of time as the head coach at Baylor University for the football team, trying to get his players out of rape accusations. A lot of them turned out to be true. About who do we need to talk to on Waco PD to get out of this? That's a guy, you know what?
Get
You
him out.
start looking at multiple. instances of this happening and very clear, trying to bribe or pay off or keep things quiet under rape allegations, yeah, piss off.
Yeah.
Go away. I never want to see you or see your face again, you piece of human garbage. Like, I don't care who your players are. If they're out raping women, be gone. And if Greg McDermott, if this was like if old Greg's making racial comments again, but Creighton basketball's good, so we got to keep him there. No, no, absolutely not. He's got to go. But in this case, that's just it's not the case.
No,
A
it's
man
not.
should lose his career over something like this.
And I want to say, like, it's like you got to look at these things almost on a case by case basis, essentially. Like, look at the guy's history, and if this is his one, he slipped up this time. Okay, then you're gonna, maybe instead of being like, bowing down to the masses, come out to the masses and say, look, this guy has a history of being an upstanding individual. He's not in any way, shape, or form any type of racist or hateful or bigoted person. He had a slip up on a turn of phrase. We've addressed the situation. The players have made their complaints known. Coach has apologized and he's said, you know what, that's on me. I won't let that happen again. I'll be more careful in the future about what I'm going to say, and then move on.
And instead of the board of regents or the dean of the school or anything making that decision, why don't you leave it to the players?
Yeah, because they're the
Because
ones that interact with him on a daily basis.
because I would just about bet you every penny in my bank account that if you left it up to the players whether or not this man should continue to coach their team in the March Madness tournament, because they're eligible, they're going to the
Right.
NCAA tournament, they would say, you know what, we need to sit down and have some tough conversations and make sure he knows that these insensitive comments are not okay and how they made us feel, which is all great. It's all room for growth as to why you should be more careful and completely eliminate some of that terminology because of how it makes other people feel when it comes to, you know, something that you could correlate to a
Right.
slavery plantation. It's room for growth and it's good conversation, but to just say he's done, it just doesn't make sense to me.
It boggles my mind, and it's people that aren't going to interact with that dude on a daily basis. Like you said, let the players decide. And from what I can understand from what you've said about this guy and how the players feel about him, they would I believe they would have sat down and been like, like you said, yeah, this isn't great. Wasn't a good look, coach. We don't appreciate that. And then I feel like, Greg would have been like, you know what, guys? Yeah, that's on me. That's my bad. I'm sorry about that. I'll be better. And then, you know, they'll move on and they'll be like, all right, cool. Like, I'm glad we had this conversation. Glad everybody, got off their chest what they needed to get off their chest. Coach took it to heart. And now, like, let's move on.
Let's go play
Let's go
basketball.
play basketball because this is what
Yeah.
we're here to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just unfortunate that we've moved into a society now where we're so I'm just gonna keep saying it, we're so soft. We're like people are just soft now. Like if somebody gets like hurt or offended, everybody has to be hurt or offended with them, or you're an asshole or a bigot or something. It's just like come on. Speaking about words and their meanings and stuff like that, apparently Gen Z is trying to cancel Eminem now too, and they picked what is it? Love the Way You Lie, his song with Rihanna. It was like one, his words in that, and they were like, oh my god, we have to cancel Eminem. He's horrible.
That's the
Blah blah
one.
blah. Yeah, that I was like,
You could
have
get a lot
I
worse
was,
than
and that's
that
literally what everybody
one.
like millennials and Gen X and people that listen to Eminem are like, that's the hill you want to die on with that song. You guys clearly haven't listened to
Good
literally
luck.
anything else Eminem has ever said in any
Yeah.
song in his entire life. That's his whole shtick as a rapper and an artist is to be controversial and like say shit like that. It's like that's his thing. He's an angry like rapper. That's his deal. Like why like there
He
what and
talks about almost murdering the mother of his child, like frequently
he
in
has
a
a
few
song about a guy who is
songs.
a crazy obsessed fan.
Yeah,
And
but
when that dude went
that's
and committed suicide, and then Eminem finally got around to responding to him, but it was too late. But it's like there's so many other songs that you like maybe could have picked that would have been better, but this is the one. This is the one you picked.
and there's a song where he literally talks about the best decision he ever made was choosing to not unload a clip onto the mother of his child because he had loaded the gun and was
Was
so
it?
crazy and so pissed at her that he was just ready to just end her life. Like you okay.
They're
So
taking what they're doing is they're taking that shit out of context. It's like, look, Eminem raps about his life. Like he didn't have it easy growing up or anything like that. That dude has rapped about his life his entire career, but for the majority of it, he goes, "But I didn't do it," and I like
well,
either I yeah. It's just like
and not that I
just
think that we should be
flabbergasted.
canceling rappers either,
Right.
but look at some of the horrific shit that goes into lyric. Like, start with NWA talking about murdering prostitutes. Like,
And killing
uh,
cops and
yeah,
shit like that. Like literally, one of NWA song is like "fuck the police coming straight from the underground." That's how the damn song opens. But because it's like, but you're not gonna cancel NWA because that'll look bad because you're like, oh snap, we're coming after a black rap group, but you can come after a white rapper and it like looks a little bit better. Like and chat said too, like wait till they hear DMX lyrics or ICP or
yeah.
anybody else like that. Like that was 90s and early 2000s rap.
Even more so, for I can't remember the exact lyric or who sang it, but it was like a pretty popular song not long ago talking about putting some sort of drug into a girl's drink and like taking her back to the crib and I can't remember the
Yeah.
lyric, but it's like a very clear lyric about date rape.
Right.
Okay, well, again, I don't think that that guy
That's
really did that,
right.
but or if he did, he should be arrested. But you can't come after like you can't come after people like
Right.
that. Or if you do, hold everybody accountable
Right. Yeah. Don't
across the
you
board.
can't pick and choose. Like they're gonna pick and choose and come after Eminem for this, but they're gonna leave excuse me, other people alone that have done the same and or worse, in their songs. But like it's just like, the Squash is saying too, Blurred Lines by fucking Robin Thicke. Like that one, like
Buy you a drink.
yeah, buy you a drink. Like
I'm gonna
it's
take you
like
home with me.
yeah, it's like and like Metters said as well, like the government's been trying to cancel Eminem for decades and they haven't succeeded. So I don't know what you guys are gonna do, but it's not gonna work. What Eminem's gonna do is he's gonna make a rap song about it and he's gonna shit all over you and he's gonna make a fuck ton of money from it.
How about this? If it offends you, don't listen to it.
Like that's the easy solution. Like if you don't like it, don't listen to it. Problem solved. Everybody else from our generation and people that like Eminem don't have to be like come to his defense and be like fucking just leave him alone. Like don't listen to it. You don't have to worry about it. The
Yeah,
rest of us that enjoy it and can read through and read between the lines of his lyrics and be like, all right, maybe they want to have a head on our shoulders. Like, all right, it's fine. Like, don't fucking worry about it. It's just I don't I'm struggling to figure out how this like how we got to this point. Like how is and I'm gonna keep shitting on Gen Z because it's just a lot of what I see, like where it's coming from is just teenagers and preteens and shit like that. Like again, like we're so mad about this, blah blah blah. It's like where, what, how, wait, where, who coddled you so much and told you were that special all the time that like this is where we're at. Like what happened to you know raising kids to be like, look, you don't judge anybody by the color, like the color of their skin or anything. Like judge them by the content of their character and that kind of stuff. And then like why did little Billy come home and be like, Mom, someone said something offensive to me and I'm upset about it. Blah blah blah. Like why instead of like going, okay, Billy, that sucks. This is how we can deal with it. Yada yada yada. And then we move from that to just fucking like lambasting the whole school or the school board or the teachers for like that kind of shit and being like, you guys are doing a terrible job and these kids are doing like all this shit. It's your job to like correct them. And it's like, well, it's not on the teachers. The teachers are just there to educate them about a certain topic Like you failed at the home. Either that parent whose kid's like a bully and a dickhead, something's up over there. Those his parents have failed him some way, and now you're kind of failing your kid by saying if something is wrong, just complain about it enough, and then you're just gonna get everything fixed and you'll have it your way. Because you're mad and sad now, and now everybody has to be mad and sad. Like when did that
Yeah, that's an
start?
interesting
Like
the the I won't necessarily comment on that exactly because like bullying thing. I get the analogy you're making,
yeah,
but Poison says it really well. It all started with zero no zero policy and participation trophies, and again, it's very. I'm not saying it's like horrible to give a 4-year-old a trophy for participating, whatever, but you see it. Like I coach youth baseball for a long time, right? And you see these parents telling their kids like, oh, you're the greatest, you're the
yeah.
best, like it's okay if you mess up, like it's okay if you strike out, which okay, that's
Well, it's
fine
fine.
if
You can
that's the
mess
approach
up.
you want to
Like,
take. But then when your kid strikes out 3 times a game, and then you're coming to the coach and saying, well, why isn't he playing? Because the
cause
kid's
your kid's
upset
ass.
because he thinks he's the best. That's what he's been told, right? I mean, you're lying to him, unfortunately. Like it gets to a point where you have literally lied to your child, telling them that they're the best or that they can mess up. And they can. It's okay
Yeah,
to
it's
mess up.
okay to
It's okay
mess
to
up.
make errors. But at a certain point in time, if you're striking out 5 times a game, maybe baseball isn't your
Yeah,
sport. Maybe it's time to find something else.
or 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 practice more. Go and practice
Yeah.
and put in the work instead of just being like, oh, my mom told me I'm the best. I don't have to try at anything. Fucking like put
Hey
in the
man,
work.
you're working hard and I love the progress that you're making. You're not where you need to be at to start all the time, but we're going to keep working towards it.
Right. You know, like, it's this
Perfect.
thing. Like, and my thing is like, like them, Poison mentioned participation trophies. Like, my thing is like, cool, give everybody a trophy up until like at a certain age, stop giving participation trophies out. I don't know what age you want to put that at, but at some point, kids need to learn, you win some and you lose some. Just because you showed up doesn't mean you get to have a trophy. You got to put the work in as well to get to a point where you can compete in whatever you're competing in, be good and win.
Well, the policy that I put into place when they were 2 years outside of high school, and I made it clear at the very beginning, we're going to play everyone during the week on the games that don't mean anything. They're basically glorified scrimmages, right? But when we come time for a tournament on the weekend, the best 9 kids are going to start. And I know that's going to be an adjustment. I know we've always done it in the past because you guys were younger, but I'm not servicing you well to get you ready for high school if I continue to coddle you and let you play every game because I feel bad because your parents drove to Kansas City or whatever. And some parents really didn't like it. And that's fine. You don't have to like it, but I'm preparing them for the real environment because guess what's going to happen? If you make your high school team and your kid's not starting and you go to the high school coach and say, hey, why isn't my kid starting? He's not even going to respond to you. Instead, he's probably just going to cut your kid because he doesn't want to hear from you.
Yeah,
You know, like you at a certain point in time, you have to prepare people, children especially, for the real world out there. You can't just wrap them up in bubble wrap and just try to protect them and try to rescue them from everything because you create a child that's not self-sufficient.
exactly. And I know Poison Poison made a joke in here and said, Darth is a parent. Not my fault. Your ass, kid. Do better.
That's
Essentially, yes. But like, if my kid came to me and was like, Dad, I'm not starting, I'd be like, well, look, buddy, you're not that great. So here's our options. Either we can find you another sport that you're good at, or we can get outside and we'll practice here outside of practice at school. And we'll get you to a point where you are good and you can start. But I'm not gonna go to the school and be like, "Hey, start my kid." I'm like, the coach was like, "Hey, man, your kid's kind of ass at this game. He's gonna ride the bench till he gets better." I'd be like, "All right, good to go, coach. Like, work him out in practice, and I'll do what I need to do with him at home, so we can get him to a point where he can start and that kind of shit." Like, you're not gonna sit there like you said and coddle your kid, um, so that they just continually think that everything's going to be given to them no matter what, and if something doesn't go their way, they can just whine and cry about it and something's going to change, because that's not how the real world operates. When you get out, the real world is going to kick you in the dick and it's not going to care. and you're gonna either have to like buck up and get up off the ground and move on and take that lesson and get better, or you're gonna fail. And those are your two choices.
Well, and what are they going to do when they start a job, and then the boss comes to them and fires them because they're underperforming and their whole life they've been told they're the best and they don't have to work as hard as everybody else. You're not preparing them for real life. And someday parents are going to be gone, you know. Ideally, no parent wants to bury their child, so ideally every child outlives their parent.
Right.
And someday you're not going to be there. And if you set them up for failure as a child, that's not going to go away or get better as time goes on. They got to be ready to look life in the face and say, hey, shit's not going to go my way all the time. It's not always going to go the way that I want it to. In fact, probably more times than not, it's going to throw a wrench in my life and I'm going to have to figure out how to get through this.
Right. And the important thing is figuring out how to get through it, taking the lessons you learn from that and moving forward, and then applying them to the next wrench that gets thrown your way.
Yeah.
And that's not enough of that is happening nowadays. Like I saw some bullshit, and it's kind of funny, but I saw some bullshit in a video like earlier today actually, and it was this teenager had made a little TikTok video, and it was like talking about white and straightened teeth, and she was like, "Why did the teeth have to be straight? Why can't they be gay or bi?" And it's like you're missing the point. It's not your teeth don't get to have a sexuality. You don't get to put a sexuality on your teeth. In that instance, straight is an adjective describing how your teeth look as opposed to being crooked and British. Sorry, Britain. Like that's
I'm
like
not
we
sorry.
don't. Yeah, I'm not sorry. Your teeth are fucked. But like, who cares? Like, let's not put a negative moniker on the word straight because it offends gay, bi, LGBTQI people. Like that's not like in that instance you have to be able to go, oh, they're not talking about sexuality. That's an adjective to describe the can't of
That's just
something.
crazy.
And I feel like plenty of LGBTQ people would look at that and go, you're dumb.
Yeah, a
Like
lot of
they're gonna be
as
like,
they
we're not
should.
gonna die on the hill of whether or not teeth can be gay. That's stupid.
No. Well, and that
Like,
I
how do
hate
you want to
to
describe teeth if they're not straight? Like, what do you want to use? More words? My teeth are in line.
I hate to sit
Like what?
in the echo chamber. That's the age of social media where I can say something and I can get reaction, good, bad, or indifferent. Um,
Um,
Sorry, I was just reading that comment.
yeah,
Also, I
I
saw
was
your
like, what?
face. Um, and now I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, in the age of social media, where it's like I can say anything and I can sit behind this keyboard and I can get a reaction out of people. That's just a troll being a troll,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. That's wild.
Yeah. Poison, no. And I don't even know if I've heard of that. Like,
You wanna read that, and I'm gonna do some research real quick.
yeah, okay. So poisons, or discount Jamie, hop on that. Poison, uh, y'all can see it, but it says, did we cover the vegan teacher who wanted to take the N word back? And is that different from the vegan teacher that's been all over TikTok and actually who's now banned on TikTok? That's a whole nother can of
I
worms.
think that's the vegan teacher released a video where she calls a doll the N word.
Same one. Oh my. Oh, that's why she got banned. That's why she got banned from TikTok. Oh, okay, okay,
Oh,
okay, good.
ban cruelty, not words. Huh.
That lady was a nutcase.
That's a tough.
Um, so yeah, the vegan teacher's kind of an idiot. And I'm not gonna mince my words on that one. Uh, she's definitely not helped out the vegans case overall, and that didn't help it even. That helped it even less. I found that lady just to be unbearable and annoying because she is she is one of those people that's like, I don't like this, I'm gonna make everyone else not like it. And it's like, look, lady,
Well,
no.
yeah, and not a good look, especially as a white lady. Not,
Exactly. I don't
not a
know who you're
very.
trying to crusade
I
for on that one, but
She spelled out the N word,
oh god.
naturally intelligent, gorgeous, generous, exemplary, and radiant. Ban cruelty, not words. And I understand the sentiment because we've talked about it before. Again, I do not
I do not condone.
any of what she did. Somebody said this one should have stayed in your drafts. Like, completely agree. Don't get into a realm that you're not,
You're in
personally
too
familiar
far
with.
over your head on that one, lady.
Yeah, I see what she's saying in the sense that it's like we've talked about the word fairy in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're describing Tinkerbell, who is a fairy and has little wings on her back and sprinkles fairy
Sprinkles
dust
dust
and
and
things
does
like that,
magic.
that's not a bad word to say on the surface. Now, if I'm calling someone who happens to be homosexual that word, I'm not even going to say it again because I don't want
In
to
that, yeah,
again
in that
use
context.
words, because you should never say that about a homosexual person. Then that's very bad. That's not good at all. You should be slandered and have some backlash for calling a homosexual person that word. But again, just saying the word doesn't make you homophobic.
Right.
So I understand what she's saying. The way that she went about it was
Not good.
horribly wrong and inappropriate. Not a good way to do it. You should probably just stick to being an advocate for vegans, and people will hate you enough.
Yeah.
You don't have to start crossing the borders onto
Yeah, like that I
trying to justify the end.
that is an uphill battle that you're not going to win no matter what spin you try and put on that. Like
No,
as white people, just leave that one alone. Refrain from using it ever, and we'll just move on with our lives. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I didn't hear about that at all.
I knew she got
Um,
well. I knew she got banned on TikTok, and like literally all of her videos got taken down. And I'm assuming it was because of that. Yeah, you were already annoying and hated enough as just the worst vegan to walk the face of the planet since veganism started. Um,
and again, even
Congratulations, you played
be a
yourself.
vegetarian, but be a Christian, be whatever you want to be. Just don't ram it down other people's throats,
Exactly. Like, and I
right?
feel like I've seen this enough too, but I feel like yeah, us as millennials, it's true. We're just like we don't give a fuck, dude. Don't care what church you go to. Don't care what color your skin is. Don't care what your sexual preference is. Don't care what your sexual orientation is. Like all of that, like fair act shit that happens when you get hired at a job. We could give a fuck less
There's
where you fall
one thing
under.
I want you to be. Only one thing I want you to be, and that's happy.
Yeah, like
Achieve
just
that however you want.
we're just gonna
And
like move on. If you're cool and we can be cool, then cool. If you're an asshole and I'm not like vibing or whatever with like your level of being an asshole, then like I'm not gonna fucks with you. But like the be all and end of all it is, we don't care. We just like people for people mainly. Like, and I feel we need more of that and less, way less of I'm angry, upset, hurt, mad about this. Everyone else has to be.
yeah.
Because I can almost guarantee you that 9 times out of 10, whatever you're upset about, I could give a fuck less about.
Well, and again, you have the right to be hurt, angry, upset, mad, but you don't have the right to say if you don't agree with me, you're a racist, bigot,
Yeah,
misogynist, xenophobic, whatever the freaking term is that you want to throw out there.
because now you're
Because no,
doing
that's not true. Yeah.
what they fail to realize is like by doing that, they're they're doing the same thing that basically whatever they're mad about. So they don't want to look at it and go, oh, "I'm mad about this," but if you don't agree with me, you're this, and this, and then it looks. Then you got to look at it and be like, "Well, now you're just shooting yourself in the foot because I'm not mad about this. That means you're saying that means I'm X, Y, or Z. Well, now I'm up. Now I get to be mad at you because those things about me aren't true, and you're stereotyping me or whatever. So now you've just fallen into like your own trap, basically. Like,
It'd be like take the Greg McDermott example, right? Those players have a right to be hurt. I understand that. They have a right to think that they should call for his job. There's black people across Omaha that have a right to think that his job should be taken. Do I agree with that? Not necessarily. Does that give you the right to call me a racist and say I'm justifying his use of the term plantation?
Mm-mm.
Not whatsoever. That you can't be so cut and dry like you have to be on this side of the fence or the other side of the fence and there's no in between. That's not how discussions and conversations work.
No, but no, like we said before, nobody wants to have discussions or conversations anymore. It's either they're trying to make everything so black and white. You're either this or this. There's no in between. When in reality, there's miles of in between.
A
And
lot
in
in
that in
between.
between is where you can come together, have a civilized discussion, figure out what each person's viewpoint is, talk about it, and at the end of the day, if you don't change the other person's mind or they don't change theirs, then you look at them and go, you know what? At least I know where you're coming from. We'll agree to disagree. We'll move on. We can still be friends. We can still talk and hang out, but I don't agree with you on this point. You don't agree with me on this point, and that it is what it is.
And if you don't want to talk or hang out with me, that is your
And
choice
that's
and
your
your
choice, and
option.
you're right.
And I may be hurt by that, but that's your right also. I don't think that maybe that's right. Again, it goes back to the general premise of thinking someone's wrong or right. I'm not going to think everybody's right. And not everybody's going to think I'm right. And I say it all the time. I'm kind of stupid, so I don't expect everybody to think I'm right. And if you have a better opposing view, my mind is 1,000% open. But circling all the way back, you can't make everybody happy, and you can't live in this dystopian world to where we're all gonna sit around a campfire and sing kumbaya and vote 100% for one president or 100% for the other president. It's
Right.
not
And
going to
it's
happen.
never going to happen because people are different. Every person. I'm not the same as Alex. Alex is not the same as me. I'm not the same as you guys. And you guys aren't the same as me. We have different likes and dislikes. But it's literally impossible to make everyone happy. And we have to
Yeah.
be, and what we need to get back to is the fact that, that's okay. We can't make everyone happy, and that's fine. That's the way the world is. Let's, move forward on that premise and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Poison says it best: teach me, don't belittle me.
Yep.
And that's it.
100%. Nobody does that anymore. If you disagree, nobody's ready to have an open and fair and educational conversation. It's immediately fuck you, I hate you, and you just yell at the person to try and get your point across. I'm not going to listen to you if you're yelling at me.
It's the same in sales, it's the same in religion, it's the same in politics. I sell windows for a living, and if I come in and say you're an effing idiot if you don't buy from me and let me tell you why, they're going to say see ya.
Yep.
It's the same premise as if you're a Christian taking the approach of let me tell you why I'm right and you're wrong and why you're going to hell if you don't believe me. They're going to say see ya.
Yeah, like I don't want to believe in whatever you're putting
It,
out there because if I don't believe it and I'm going to hell and that's the be all and end all of it, like no thanks. Like you gotta, the art of conversation has just been lost, and I would, you know, venture out to blame a lot of it on technology
Twitter, man.
and Twitter. We hide behind small blurbs where you don't really get to explain yourself, and if you try to explain yourself, it takes a 3 mile long thread to get your point across, and people misinterpret things all the time, whether it was your intention or not. So it's the art of conversation is becoming less and less.
I mean,
um
sorry, go ahead.
no, I was like trying to find the right word, but like it's just becoming less and it's just not
It's
happening
not
anymore.
personal.
It's not,
It's
no, it's
not
not, it's very
personal.
impersonal. Everybody hides behind the screen because if somebody says something that you don't like or they disagree with you, you either delete the comment or log out or just ignore them. And instead of going, oh, well, you disagree. Why do you disagree? What is your reasoning for disagreeing with me? Everybody's like, fuck you, you disagree with me. Well, fuck you, you disagree with me. It's like,
Ben, why do we do the podcast in this format where we're live and we have the best audio possible? We both spent a fair amount of money on microphones to make sure that people can hear us and we can hear each other the best with our personal voice. And then if I said, okay, I have another idea for a podcast. We're literally going to send each other messages back and forth through text that we'll have to read, and we'll limit the word count that we can put in said text. And then I'll send it to you, and you'll send it back to me, and then I'll send it to you, and then you'll send it back to me. You'd say, Alex, you're fucking crazy. That would never work for a podcast because that will be horrible.
Right.
We're going to misinterpret each other. There's no
Or spend
connotation.
more time trying to figure out what the other person meant rather than talking about what we actually need to talk about.
So take the potato head or the Dr. Seuss thing just on its face. Why are people so pissed? I've seen so many right lean people saying, well, they canceled Dr. Seuss and they came after Mr. Potato Head. What's next? Well, hold on.
Pump
I
the
agree.
brakes.
When I first read that state, because that's exactly what I read leading up to my research
Right,
on
and
the
then when
topic.
you sent it to me, my knee jerk reaction was like, why on God's green earth are we doing this? Why is this the hill we're dying on? And then
Cancel
today,
culture, you assholes. Come on, leave Dr. Seuss and Mr. Potato Head alone,
yeah,
right?
and then you
But
get in,
that's not the deal.
right, and then you
That's not
get
the way
in
that it's going down.
and you do research like we do, so we can come on this thing and talk to you guys and go, look, if you haven't done it, here's the research. And some of you might have had the same knee jerk reaction we did, but we said, wait, let's look into it a little bit more. And not enough people do that.
It's a marketing ploy.
It is. That's really
It's
all it
probably
boils
a pretty
down to.
good marketing ploy.
It's a marketing ploy. Somebody got paid a lot of money to be like, hey, what if we just take the Mr. and Mrs. off and make it the Potato Head franchise? And somebody was like, God damn it, Jim, you're getting a raise. And Jim was like, thank you very much. And then sales just went.
And then the right said, "I'm gonna buy Mr. Potato Head so I can say I own the Mr. Potato Head." And then the left came out and said, I'm gonna wait until they rebrand it so that way I can own one of the very first just potato heads.
And meanwhile, Hasbro in the middle of it was sent out a tweet that was like, "Hey, guys, in case you're wondering, Mr. Potato Head and Mrs. Potato Head are still a thing. We just rebranded to include their entire family." And then everybody else was like,
Shit.
"Oh fuck,
They got
they
us.
got us."
They got us.
It's like, but
Big business doing big business things.
exactly. And then like you said earlier, like why we do this and have an open forum with you guys is so that we can try and, to a degree, keep the art of conversation alive and come to a point where we can talk about things. Like we value and like having this live interaction with you guys to see what your thoughts are. And there's been plenty of people roll through this thing that were like, you know what, guys, I don't agree with you on that, and here's why. And we go, oh, huh. Well,
Well,
that's an
and
interesting viewpoint, and we discuss it for a minute.
I'm really glad you brought that up because there was a comment, and I know it was a joke when we had Dan on, who had very opposing views from what I do. I still love the guy to death. Um, and we'll sit and we'll probably never be able to change our minds. But there was a comment about I said something to the effect of we want to get outside of the echo chamber, and then it seemed like I was agreeing with everything that he said.
I remember that.
I I was not agreeing with everything that he said. I was taking opportunities to have tactful discussion and conversation. And we did agree on some things, but if I was going to sit here and try to pick apart every single word that he said, and Dan is a great guy and I love him. He's also very passionate and talks a lot, which is one of the reasons why I wanted him on here. But if I sat here and tried to dissect and write down, oh, he said that and I disagree. Oh, he said that and I disagree.
We've been here for hours.
I'm going to take the approach of now I'm just trying to pick apart your argument and not sit here and say, listen, I understand where you're coming from. I know the sentiment behind your passion. I truly do understand that. I might think that there's a better way to handle that particular issue. But again, I'm not going to sit here and focus on all of the things we disagree on because that's a futile argument.
Right.
That's me. You see it on Fox
That's
News
people are
all the
just going to be
time.
bashing their heads into a wall, and you're like, okay, we get it. You disagree. Can we move on?
That's one of the things that like fucking like Tommy Loren, like
Oh
I
God.
despise that woman and not necessarily, I mean, yeah, because of some of her views, I don't think she's
Mainly
completely
just
like
because she just yells her views at you, and when somebody
that's
disagrees with her, she's like, "Get fucked."
I was listening to her, and again, I try to watch as much CNN as I do Fox News. I'm not like a Fox News guy. Like, I'm not. I hope everybody knows that by this point in time. But she was on. She's always on Fox. She was on Fox the other day, and they were her and a colleague, two female colleagues, two female Republican colleagues. They were arguing, making the same point. I forget what the point was, but I was just sitting there like, will one of you shut up and listen to what the other person is saying instead of trying to find one little thing to be like, gotcha, gotcha,
You
that's not
see,
right,
well,
or
that's
I disagree with that.
what
Have a conversation and say,
was
well, wait a minute, let me help me understand what you said when you said
right.
this.
Well, they see that's the thing. There's nobody does that anymore. Nobody listens to hear the other person and then talk about it. They just listen to respond. So you just sit there and you're listening, but you're, like you said, waiting for that one thing to just bulldog afterwards and be like, this is what I think about this, and it's like, I don't want to listen to that. That's that.
I don't want to brush past the phrase that you just said because I think it's so important. So many people listen to respond versus listening to understand.
Right.
And when you're sitting there having a conversation with someone with this loaded gun in your head, and then they throw the target out, and you just go, boom, I'm ready for that one. Come on, baby. No, there's too much of let me tell you why you're wrong versus help me understand why you're thinking the way that you're
Right.
thinking.
Yeah. There's yeah. Like, don't what are you thinking? And here's how I'm thinking. And then
Yes.
going, oh, and then having discussion. But yeah, instead, and
And
I think honestly, for Fox and CNN, they both do it. It's another marketing play. They get people on like that just to get the views, the clicks up. That's why they do it, and that's part of the problem. Is people are like, oh, if I have this controversial opinion and I just bulldog somebody on this one thing, that's gonna make me viral, and I'm gonna get famous or whatever. That's another part of it that is why things are the way they are right now. Squash said that he once had to attend a diversity and sensitivity class thing for an old job. It was an hour and a half long, and the person running it was saying just real eyes, real lies, real lies, over and over and over again. And I could not imagine sitting through something like that.
that sounds absolutely horrible.
Well, it's like the same thing. It's like the same lines as Coca Cola doing their diversity training, and it's literally this white person in a video telling other white people that they're racist, and it's like, well, but why do I have to be here? Because I'm not racist. Like,
Well, you have to make sure you're sensitively trained.
no, it's just,
Make sure your sensitivity is
it's just,
right on where it should be.
it's
Turn it
just,
right up to about 9 or 10.
it's just so dumb.
No,
It's
no eight
like,
and a half. No 8.5 sensitivity.
and
You
definitely
got
not 5.
sensitivity. We're looking for a 9.5 or a 10.
Yeah,
No more, no less.
it's something dumb. I know earlier Poison, and I did see it in my Discord, and we kind of did we missed it because we were like on a roll. But in the same vein as like Dr. Seuss and Mr. Potato Head, people are coming after Pepe Le Pew from the Looney Tunes.
Oh, Ed Nuts said that. I
Yeah, and Ed
completely
Nuts said it
forgot.
too.
Sorry, Ed Nuts.
Yeah, Ed
My
Nuts and
bad.
Poison both mentioned that they're coming after
Shout out,
Pepe Le
shout
Pew.
out to Ed Nuts, by the way.
Right, and Lacey too. It's been a little while since I've
Lacey,
seen
yes,
Lacey, but
Lacey is
welcome
in that
back. Thank
inclusion
you.
as well.
Thank you for coming back. We missed you. But yeah, they're coming after Pepe Le Pew as someone who is propagating rape culture. And if I remember back to my watchings of the Looney Tunes, even when I
He's a
was a kid,
skunk.
I was like a little bit. I was like, ugh, my guy, a little aggressive there. But
He's a skunk. They literally describe him as a nasty smelling rodent. Like, that's the intention. Yes, we agree that it's not very
Pepe's a
good.
scumbag.
And we agree. Yeah, he's a skunk.
That was the shtick, though. That was the shtick for Looney Tunes. Like, again,
If you're going to come after anybody, you should come after Johnny Bravo.
that man.
But again, like, that, you want to talk about some, like, really, like, this is what we watched as kids as a cartoon. Like, if you want to come after anybody, that's the one I'd be like, okay, yeah, maybe this isn't like
Johnny
real
Bravo
good.
was not a
But they
stand-up guy.
depict him as the no, the egotistical,
Lacey,
meathead
Lacey
that,
with the Johnny Bravo quote. Hey, pretty lady. Like, yeah, like my man's was
yeah,
not a
exactly.
saint. Like, but again, in the
He
same
was
thing,
another scumbag.
just do what Disney did. Hey, this was a different time. Things were different. This is not okay. There you go. It's a
Yeah.
teaching moment
Or if
in
you don't like
literally
Johnny
everything.
Bravo, if you don't want your kids to watch Johnny Bravo,
Just don't
don't
let them
watch it,
watch Johnny Bravo.
or don't let them watch it.
And yeah, it was
Yeah,
just like
that's fine.
it was all for and this is where lines get blurry, but at that when those cartoons were around, it was all for entertainment and jokes and the yuck 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 yuck, like, this dude's fucking funny and he's kind of a scumbag, blah blah blah. Like
It was
it
part of
it
a
it,
pretty like misogynist culture.
it was indeed, it was a very misogynist, male dominated culture. But
Look
at
at
the same time, I feel
Andrew
like
Cuomo.
it falls under, I think I think it falls under like that kind of stuff with like the Looney Tunes and everybody. It falls under the comedy guys, like stand up comedians. They say offensive shit, people get a chuckle out of it. Somebody's gonna get pissed in the audience, but at the end of the day, you understand it's a joke, or you're
Yeah,
supposed to.
and yeah, and that's a joke. And or is anybody really surprised? Like one of the good cancel culture items, I guess, in theory, is like the whole Me Too, like where they caught Harvey Weinstein,
Yeah,
like Weinstein, whatever. Like now coming out about Andrew Cuomo, and again, it's funny how the left turns so quick on their believe all women, shtick, to where it's like, well, we're gonna have to wait for the reports to come out,
right.
and again, that's good. Due
Totally fine.
process is
Yeah, do
fine.
due process, but
And when the first one came out, and then a couple others came out and starting to be like, well, man, kind of like when there's smoke, there's fire. And again, let him have his trial as long as they don't get some corrupt judge in there to back Andrew Cuomo.
yeah. Metters, I'm gonna say at least 7.
Over under on how many lines the Cartoon Network exec did before approving Johnny
I
Bravo.
at least 7.
Um,
It was at least 7. The line
I
is
would
7.
say I would say the limit does not exist.
I'm gonna say no less than 7, but there was
The
definitely an excess.
Yeah, the limit does not exist. They're like, this is great. Kids
But
will love this. This is perfect.
yeah,
Like,
like
oh, we did love it. I mean,
that's
I watched a lot of Ed and Eddie too,
yeah,
and
like
that was not very like
they're trying to bring
genius
that
work.
back.
Are they?
Yeah. But like
Bunch of
like what you said though with like the left, it's like they're like you said, they're very quick to crucify someone on the opposite side of the aisle for doing something like that, but God forbid it happens to somebody on their side. And then they're like, "Oh, wait." But they rake everybody over the
yeah.
coals on the other side when they say, "Well, let's
You know,
just see what the investigation brings up." They're like, "Oh, nope, guilty." And it's like, did y'all
mhm.
forget that it's innocent until proven guilty? Like there's a process that has to happen here, and it needs to happen on both sides. You don't run this double standard just because somebody, just because you're pissed that that dude did it, and now you're real upset because the guy on your side did it, and you're trying to like white knight for him. Like, pump the brakes, Super
I
Chief.
think the most ironic thing with Cuomo is he literally took away a bill or a legislation. I forget exactly what the term was, but there was a legislation, I think it was, to where if you're claiming sexual assault in the workplace, whoever the assaulter was had to, or didn't have to, but to become substantial, there needed to be at least one or more case of sexual assault in the workplace, and he removed that. And then when the first lady came out, he started denying it and being like, no, 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 this, she's just after money. Like, this is the only one that will ever come out and say that. And then a couple more came out, and it's like, sorry, man. Like,
If the shoe
you're a
fits, my guy.
scumbag. Yeah, it's kind of looking like you're a scumbag. I think
I think
you're,
most people kind of
you're a
knew that
scumbag.
just based off dude's personality.
Well, and I mean, I hate to like be a face shamer or whatever. The dude just looks fucking old and decrepit, and not even decrepit. Just
I don't.
he looks like an old scummy New York politician.
Yeah, and I'm
That's
gonna
exactly
say
what it
not to
was.
be. I'm gonna disagree with not to be a face shamer, at least for me, because most of the time when I look at somebody, my gut instinct about that person is right. So I looked at that guy the first time. I was like, yeah, nah, guy. Here we go.
Well, and how he just sits and piddles around with his brother on CNN, and they just like instead of talking, the dude won an Emmy for the way he handled the COVID response. And again, I don't want to talk about it again, but sending
Old
freaking
people to
nursing
die
home
in an old person
patients
home.
back to a nursing home and regulating them to do so. Like,
That's kind of
man,
fucked, dude.
this really took a rough turn for you.
I
And
mean,
for the
honestly, I can
few
see
months.
why he won the Emmy because his acting performance in his lies was just out phenomenal.
Great
Maybe
actor,
he should have been an
really.
actor instead of a politician.
Yeah, well, insert classic joke about politicians being actors.
True.
Scummy actors.
Scumbags. All
We haven't
right.
talked about Ted Cruz yet.
Yeah. Fuck Ted Cruz.
I don't actually hate Ted Cruz's policies.
I
I
just I
can't
don't
stand the
like the
way.
way that he conducts himself.
It's been a really nice night here. Not nicer than Cancun.
Dude, I
Like,
was like, how
no,
fucking
don't,
insensitive can you
don't do
be?
that.
You've got the
You
majority of
dummy.
Texas freezing to death, and you said, fuck it, I'm going to Cancun. Also, it was my daughter's idea, so that bus could just fucking run her over.
Well, no, and I was talking about more so when he got back
Mm
at the Republican
hmm. The
National
CPAC.
Committee or the CPAC, yeah. How he came up and it was like, yeah, I forget the exact words, but it was something to the effect of, "This is a nice night tonight, not
Not
as
as
nice
nice
as
as
Cancun."
Cancun.
Like,
Ted!
ah, Teddy, don't,
I'm
bro,
waiting for
don't.
it. I'm waiting for it real fast. If Ed Nuts is still hanging around, I'm waiting for the Ed Nuts to enter the chat because I
Yeah, I
she's
have a
gonna
feeling she could come
she'd go
storming in.
off about this 100%. Seeing her tweets has just been phenomenal. But yeah, Ted, goddamn it, Ted Cruz.
He's gonna run as Trump's vice president in 2024. Calling it right now.
No, 100%.
You heard it here
Well,
first.
of course he will because Pence didn't do Trump's bidding throughout all that shit recently, so he's gonna
The
kick him to the
worst
curb.
part is Pence was literally one of the most reliant, like dedicated vice presidents in history to Donald Trump. He would make outlandish
Just
comments such
crazy
as,
shit.
"We should inject or drink bleach." And Pence would
Pence is in the
stand
background
up
with a
behind
bottle of
him and he'd be
Clorox,
like,
like I'm doing it right now.
"Well, I can understand why he said that, like
Like he's back there
he's
with a bottle
so
of Clorox and
dedicated,
a glass. Like,
so loyal.
let's go.
He's
The
like,
president
"Well,
said bleach is fine.
I'm doing it. I mean, it seems fine." Like,
Like
and then he literally doesn't violate
he doesn't.
congressional law.
He upholds his oath to the Constitution, and Trump's like, "Fuck you," and Pence is like.
I'm disappointed, man. I'm just disappointed.
Pence is like that one dude on YouTube that like does food reviews and stuff. When he had that shitty burger or whatever it was, he goes, "My disappointment is immeasurable. My day is ruined." Like,
Yeah. Sorry, bro.
ridiculous. Oh Jesus. Chat. Do you have anything else for us? Hit us up. Let me know. Bring it on. What else
That
you want us to
hour
talk
went
about?
quick.
It did win. We're almost
It's
an
actually like,
hour and a half right now. About
yeah, I was just gonna say.
it went
See,
fast.
I told you when we take a week off, I'm just so ready.
We're ready to
Oh,
go.
maybe a good time to tease next week.
Oh,
Mary
true.
Brummel coming on the podcast.
Not in Brummel anymore, son. Mary Mendoza.
Sorry, Hugo. My bad, dude. Have it. She's my sister.
Yeah.
But yeah, she'll be coming on to talk about Feel Good, their band's new album that will be dropping soon. I don't want to give away any specifics.
We're going to give away any spoilers or anything, but we are going to have her on, and it's going to be a little bit of a different episode. We're going to talk about probably the music industry, her experiences with the music industry, what it's been like for her to start this dream of having a band and producing an EP and now producing an album. It's going to be a little bit of a different episode, but it's going to be good. And like we said, it's Alex's sister. She's one of my good friends. She's married to one of my best friends. And it's going to be a pretty laid back episode, but it's going to be good.
She's bringing a little sneak previews on next podcast that nobody's heard except band members.
Very cool.
I don't even think I've heard some of like the rough tracks, but I don't think I've heard anything
I think
that she'll be
anything that
bringing
I've
on next
heard has
week.
just been like snippets here and there, nothing like, not full tracks or anything like that. But it's gonna be good. I'm excited
Well,
for it.
she was talking about coming on today, but things weren't quite done enough yet to. She really wants to come on and share some content on here that the world hasn't heard yet. So,
So very cool. Make sure you guys are here for that one. That's gonna be a good episode.
like, she'll hate that I'm saying this, but it's like Paramore vibes.
I know, and I feel like I say that almost every time I hear her sing, but she has a very Haley Williams vibe, but
She'll hate
she
that
doesn't
so
hate
much.
it that
I know
much.
she
But
doesn't.
she takes it as a compliment, which is good. But I mean, which is good because Haley Williams has been wildly successful as the front woman for Paramore, and all of us know '90s and emo kids love Paramore. So yeah, it's good. It's a good vibe. We like it a lot. So.
It'll be a good show.
It will indeed.
I
Well,
would say that we're not going to talk about politics,
it'll
but
come up
knowing
at some point.
ourselves, it'll come up.
It'll
So
come up. We'll probably end up talking about like misogyny in the music industry or something.
that very well could be true.
I feel like that is probably going to come up. But Squash says that we hit everything he was thinking about. Doesn't look like anybody else has got anything. So on that note, I think we'll wrap it up for that week. And Lacey says, "Tell Abby I said hi. Glad I was able to catch tonight. Good night, guys. All right, yep, we
Thanks
will
for
do
coming.
that. Thanks for coming, Lacey. It was good to see you again. I know it's been a minute, but really glad that you made it back and made it into an episode. It was really good to see you in the chat again. But yeah, with that, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. And appreciate you guys coming out and listening to us ramble on again, like you guys do every week. Appreciate the support. YouTube, make sure you guys like, subscribe, turn those bell notifications on, and disseminate these two talking heads out to your friends. A little bit of a shameless plug here is we are very close to getting to that 50 follower mark on Twitch, so that I can put in for affiliate, and we'll gain that milestone on our way to becoming more well known. So tell your friends, tell your family, and tell that random crazy lady you see at the grocery store that wants to talk your ear off about conspiracy theories that we're here.
I'm gonna make shirts soon.
And with that, you guys have a safe week. Post, message us if stuff comes up you want us to talk about, and we will take it under advisement and move on from there. And other than that, we love you guys. Most
of all, be good to each other.
Be good to each other.
Tell somebody you love them.
Tell somebody you love them. Honest to God, tell somebody you love them.
We say it all the time, but I mean it from the bottom of my heart right now. Be good to people, and find somebody that you haven't told that you love them in a while, and just go out and shoot them a text and say, "Hey, you know what, man? Or woman, or it, she, they,
whatever their pronoun is.
Yeah, I love you. You're a good person. That would make me happy."
Yes, sir. All right, guys. We'll see you all next week.
Peace.